George?
Yes, Joe?
You asked me before if The Martian was the movie where Matt Damon says, I'm going to have to science the shit out of this.
And it turns out, yeah, it is that movie.
It is. They also say in this movie that they are going to do... Sorry. It is. And they also say in this movie that they are going to do the math, or the math checks out, or words to that effect.
Yep, something like that.
So, this is a pro-math, pro-science film whose ultimate message is that we should all work together to solve our problems.
Yes, I would agree with that.
So by that definition, doesn't that make this an anti-Republican movie?
Yes, Joe. Any movie that promotes critical thinking and human cooperation for any goal other than the further enrichment of the already rich is an anti-Republican movie.
What would a pro-Republican version of this movie be?
He'd sell Mars to a trillionaire who would legalize pedophilia.
Epstein's Planet. Yeah, I can see that. Welcome to Does This Still Work? The podcast looks over movies and asks, does this still work? I'm Joe Dixon.
And I'm George Romaka, and today we're discussing The Martian from 2015. Not Marvin the Martian, just The Martian. And some historical context.
Were you aware, speaking of historical context, that there was a TV show called My Favorite Martian?
I was not.
There was. Very short-lived.
Well then.
Starred Bill Bixby and Ray Walton. Bill Bixby, of course, you probably know from The Incredible Hulk, maybe? No, that's even before your time as well. Do you know who Bill Bixby is at all?
No, but did you know that the AI assistant on Samsung Galaxy phones is Bixby, and you just activated a whole bunch of AIs?
Oh my goodness.
Yep.
I'm sorry, AIs.
Not your fault. No, you didn't know. It's okay. Anyway, here's some podcasty stuff. We're excited to announce that we've joined the Creator Accountability Network. CAN is a nonprofit dedicated to reducing harassment and abuse through ethical education and a system of restorative accountability. We joined because we care about the safety and well-being of our community members. If you feel our behavior or content has harmed someone, please report it to CAN, either via the reporting form on their website, creatoraccountabilitynetwork.org, or via their hotline at 617-249-4255. They'll help us make it right and avoid repeating that mistake in the future. CAN also needs volunteers from our communities to help with their work, so if you have skills you think would be helpful, or time and a desire to help, please visit their website to find out how you can volunteer. Most importantly, get the word out to other creators who you think would be interested in getting credentialed. Help us build safer communities together. You can reach us at dtswpod@gmail.com, on Facebook, Letterboxd, and on our YouTube channel. Joe is on Blue Sky at joedixon.bsky.social. Please tell your friends about us, even the ones that are literally the best botanist on the planet, and leave 5-star ratings everywhere. You can pick what we watch and get extra per episode content by funding us on Patreon for as little as $1 a month at patreon.com/dtswpod.
Now, George, take us back to 2015.
And this is the way it was.
So this movie is about a NASA mission to Mars that goes sideways, so we'll talk about Mars and NASA and what was going on with them in 2015. Joe, give us our first headline from the Daily Sentinel of Grand Junction, Colorado.
Planning a trip to Mars soon? Try out Utah first, scientists say.
Well, first they tried the Arctic, but that proved too logistically cumbersome. Which, I mean, isn't that the whole point?
I think so, yeah. Well,
right.
I guess not.
To be clear, this isn't a NASA thing. It's an experiment run by the nonprofit Mars Society, which believes that getting humans to Mars is the greatest challenge of our time. And technologically, maybe it is.
Mars is our closest planet, right? And we'll get to Mars before we can get to, Neptune or something.
I don't know if Mars is closer than Venus, but I do know that we can't even send things to Venus that'll survive for more than a couple of minutes, like technologically, because it's so stinking hot. So Mars would be the closest planet that we could theoretically set foot on without dying.
Okay.
6 Belgian students were selected to spend 2 weeks in the Utah desert simulating the behaviors, if not the exact environment, of a Martian expedition. None of the 6 were interested in actually going to Mars unless there was a guarantee of a safe return.
Sure, that makes sense. I too wouldn't be interested in going to Mars unless there's a safe return. Was that even a question?
Right?
Are you willing to go to Mars and die? No. Actually, I'm not.
And that group was the 153rd over the previous 14 years to perform that experiment, which exists mostly to promote education and public awareness that at least one trip to Mars is a necessary future endeavor.
Is it really a necessary future endeavor?
I think so.
Why?
Because we don't know what we're going to learn until we do it. And we learn things by pushing our boundaries. Like as a species. So, before we move to NASA, here's some quick facts about Mars. And I'm just going to read.
Okay.
Utah versus Mars, a world of difference. The Mars Society chose the American Southwest for its training facility because the soil and lack of vegetation resemble the landscape of the red planet, but that's where the similarities end. A look at some of the main differences between Mars and Earth. Dangerous radiation. Astronauts venturing into deep space on their way to Mars would face radiation from high-energy galactic cosmic rays spewed by distant supernova explosions and sporadic bursts of charged particles hurled by the sun. Earth's magnetic field helps to deflect much of that radiation. I'm adding from us living here on the planet. Astronauts would be bombarded with as much radiation as getting a full-body CT scan about once a week for a year, according to researchers who reviewed data from a radiation sensor aboard a rover during the journey to Mars. In some cases, that dose would exceed NASA's standards and be enough to raise an astronaut's cancer risk by 3%.
But at the same time, wouldn't you also at least an open possibility of getting superpowers?
No. Not in reality, because we've irradiated plenty of human beings and produced 0 actual superheroes.
Aww.
And talking about superheroes and the ways that you get them, none of the world's current billionaires have put on any kind of rubber suits and decided to start helping humanity out that way. So the 2 avenues that we know of for superhero generation from the comic books have not happened.
Well, as a rule, as we now all know, a very rich person is more likely to become the Joker than Batman.
Yep. So, no running water. There's no liquid water on the current surface of Mars. Though scientists believe that the planet had running water long ago, that belief comes from the fact that Mars has riverbeds and canyons that were probably formed by water. Mars does have frozen water on its polar cap, which is a mixture of dry ice, carbon dioxide, and water ice.
Okay.
There's also not no oxygen, but not much oxygen. On Earth, 21% of our, 20.9 really, percent of our atmosphere is oxygen, and less than 1% is carbon dioxide. For now. On Mars, 96% of the atmosphere is carbon dioxide, and less than 1% is oxygen. That means astronauts have to wear spacesuits at all times outside of a, habitat thing.
Well, that makes sense.
Freezing temperature. The Earth has some cold places, but they pale in comparison to freezing Mars. The average temperature on Mars is minus 81 degrees, with lows reaching minus 284. That's centigrade, because Earth's average temperature is 57 degrees, with the coldest temperature ever on record being minus 126.
Cold planet.
And this isn't necessarily prohibitive. Mars has 63% less gravity, which means it only has 37% of Earth's gravity. So a person who weighs 100 pounds on Earth would weigh only like 38 on Mars.
Oh, so it's a
weight loss plan?
A weight reducer, yeah.
Yes. It is a weight loss plan, but not a mass loss plan, which is the problem that we face. We face an abundance of mass, particularly visceral fat, not necessarily because of Earth's gravitational pull.
Okay.
So that's some stuff about Mars.
Huh?
Finally, Joe, give us our last headline from the Huntsville Times of Huntsville, Alabama.
5 cool new things that didn't exist until NASA and Alabama helped invent them.
The article made me giggle at the level of local pride in the headline.
Well, they have so little to be proud of. I mean, come on, it's Alabama. No offense to our Alabama listeners.
There's 0% chance that you could say the thing that you said right before you said no offense to those people. Just saying. So, what are some cool things that NASA, specifically in Alabama, helped create? Well, NASA needed a way to retract arms from launching rockets without damaging the arms. So, working with a company called Taylor Devices, they created fluid-based dampeners that have since been modified and installed on more than 550 buildings as earthquake shock absorbers. As of 2015, so 11 years ago, no building with those installed had suffered even minor earthquake damage, and I presume that statement implied that some of them were actually hit by earthquakes.
That would be the implication.
And we really want to grow things on Mars, and to do so would require that we scrub the air in the botany habitat for ethylene, which speeds up plant aging. Aeris Holdings created such a filter, and the process also happens to kill off some bacteria and pathogens, making them extra useful.
Okay.
I really want to know more about this one because it's a simple add-on for Microsoft Project that created top-level summary reports for managers. I do that kind of thing as a side quest in my day job. A company called Made in Space developed a 3D printer that can work in space. The naming, right on the nose.
Yep.
That means that crews can print many tools and replacement parts, even nanosatellites, while in space. And finally, Potomac Photonics got really good at using lasers to micro-machine lenses and small parts, and NASA contracts them for a lot of work.
I assume all these companies are in Alabama?
No.
So where does the Alabama come in?
There's a NASA location in Alabama that all of this was actually coordinated through.
So in actuality, it really's got nothing to do with Alabama. It literally could have happened anywhere.
Well, it was NASA in Alabama.
Okay. With no doubt, no one who got a local Alabama education was involved in the creation of anything. No offense again to our dear listeners in Alabama.
And once again, 0% chance that you didn't offend everybody in Alabama that listens to our podcast. All right, let's talk about The Martian.
Let's do that. All right, this film is directed by Ridley Scott.
Great Scott!
Great Scott, that Ridley Scott.
Actually, no, that was Michael Scott that would do that on his films that he would show in The Office.
Do you ever meet anybody actually named Ridley?
No.
No, that's a really unusual name, isn't it?
His mother must have hated him.
Or loved him. Maybe it's a family name.
Sure.
Anyway, Mr. Scott, we've seen his directorial work in, for the podcast, American Gangster, G.I. Jane, Blade Runner, Alien, and Thelma and Louise. For myself, I've seen his work in The Last Duel and All the Money in the World. And I just want to say very quickly, The Last Duel, excellent. Unfortunately, it came out during the pandemic, so nobody saw it. But it was a great movie.
And I've seen his work in Gladiator.
This is written by Drew Goddard, and I've seen Mr. Goddard's work in The Cabin in the Woods and Project Hail Mary. This is written by also Andy Weir, who was the person who wrote the original book. This is the source material, and he also wrote Project Hail Mary.
Okay, then.
Let's get into the blurbs. IMDb says, an astronaut stranded on Mars must rely on his ingenuity to survive and arrange a potential rescue.
Sure.
YouTube said, yep, true. YouTube says, from legendary director Ridley Scott, Alien, Prometheus, comes a gripping tale of human strength and the will to survive. During a mission to Mars, American astronaut Mark Watney, Matt Damon, is presumed dead and left behind, but Watney is still alive against all odds. He must find a way to contact Earth and hope that scientists can devise a rescue plan to bring him back home. Wasn't it also a movie Against All Odds?
Yep.
Is it a song?
Yep. I'm learning. I can pretty much play it and sing it on piano. Take a look at me now. There's just an empty space.
We probably can't sing more than that without getting in trouble. Okay, characters. Mark Watney is played by, as I said, Matt Damon. And for the podcast, we've seen Mr. Damon in Good Will Hunting and Dogma. And both George and I have seen him in Chasing Amy, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, Thor Ragnarok, Deadpool 2, and Thor Love and Thunder. And on my own, I've seen him in The Departed, Oppenheimer, The Last Duel, Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, Ford vs. Ferrari, and Contagion.
And I've seen him in Saving Private Ryan, heard him in Titan AE, and seen him in Finding Forrester, Ocean's 11, The Sum of All Fears, The Bourne Identity, and Jersey Girl.
Teddy Sanders is played by Jeff Daniels.
And this is like the director of NASA.
He plays the director of NASA. And for the podcast, we've seen Mr. Daniels in Terms of Endearment, Dumb and Dumber, and Away We Go. And both George and I have seen him in The Newsroom, that's a TV show, and in Speed, which for some reason we haven't talked about on the show. We have to put that on the list sometime. And then again, we say that every week. Oh, this is a movie we've never seen for the show. Anyway, on my own, I've seen Mr. Daniels in The Purple Rose of Cairo, Good Night and Good Luck, Looper, 2 Days in the Valley, and Radio Days.
And I've heard him in 101 Dalmatians.
Mitch Henderson is played by Sean Bean. And both George and I have seen him in GoldenEye from 1995.
And I've seen him in Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, Two Towers, and Return of the King, and in National Treasure.
We keep promising this. We really should at some point have just a special episode where we just see Lord of the Rings.
I didn't want to do that as an episode. I just wanted you to come over and then we watch those movies.
Oh, I thought that's well.
I mean, we can do that if you want. They're in our wheelhouse.
For sure.
But that's a lot of movie. Like, that's like 9 hours worth of movie.
By the way, this movie, The Martian, was 2 hours and 38 minutes. I do not want to hear any more about There Will Be Blood. You're going to watch that movie with me, you son of a bitch. All right, Vincent Kapoor is played by, because that's a long movie too. Vincent Kapoor is played by Chipwell Elfor. Oh, God, I fuck that man's name up every time. Say it for me.
I don't know how to fucking say his name.
Keep this all in. Anyway.
Chwetel Ejiofor is...
Ejiofor. He's in... I just seen him in Back Rooms, and I still can't pronounce his... see his name, and I can't do it. Anyway. For the podcast, we've seen him in Inside Man, American Gangster, 12 Years a Slave, and Love Actually.
Mm-hmm.
He was the one who was potentially being cheated on by his best friend.
Mm-hmm.
So drove George up the wall. One of the many things about that film he did not like. Old Georgie. Anyway, both George and I have seen him in Doctor Strange and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. And on my own, I've seen him in Venom, The Last Dance, The Old Guard, and Amistad.
And I've seen him in Serenity.
Bruce Nig?
Nig.
Hey, watch it, buddy. Bruce Nig is played by Benedict Wong. And both George and I have seen him in Doctor Strange, Avengers Infinity War, and Avengers Endgame. And we also seen him in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. On my own, I've seen him in Weapons, Spider-Man No Way Home, and Shang-Chi and the Legend of Ten Rings. Rich Purnell is played by Donald Glover. And I've seen him in Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse and Spider-Man Homecoming.
And I've seen him as the young Lando Calrissian in Solo, A Star Wars Story.
My understanding is he was the best thing in that picture.
I'd make an argument that that droids are the best things in every Star Wars picture.
Okay, fair enough. All right, let's get into the plot. According to Wikipedia, this movie is set in 2035. George, where in the movie does it show that the year is 2035? Because I completely missed that.
I don't know that it does, but it probably says it in the book.
Almost certainly says it in the book.
And there might be like a news ticker somewhere, like, because there's a lot of like showing news coverage and whatnot.
Right.
There might be a date on the screen.
Yes, I'm thinking, this is, I'm looking at Wait a second, this is set in 2035? Really?
Yeah, this
What
is
the modern day?
There is no chance that 9 years from now this happens.
Anyway, in 2035, 6 astronauts are on Mars doing field research when a dust storm breaks out. They abandon their work, but unfortunately, one of the crew is hit by debris and is presumed dead. That man is played by Matt Damon, who, of course, is not dead. Otherwise, the movie would have been really short.
Yep.
As he recovers from the injury that knocked him out, he starts a video diary. He does this for 2 reasons. 1, so he can document what happened to him, and 2, so he has someone to speak to, and the audience doesn't get a bunch of voiceovers of his thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's smart, he realizes he needs to be proactive. The next Mars mission won't be for another 4 years. With that in mind, he first has to make himself food and then water. George, do you want to explain how he does both those things, since you're more of a science guy than I am?
He finds the potatoes that were frozen for their eventual Thanksgiving meal on Mars, right? And because potatoes are basically like the seed of a potato plant, he said, well, I'm going to try and plant these. So on one hand, I get why NASA in this fictional world would somehow end up storing every one of these astronauts' bodily excrement in individually sealed plastic pouches. Probably because we don't want to start polluting Mars. But at the same time, not only is it shit, but it's shit in plastic, which would arguably be worse, I guess. But anyway, he's like, well, I can use this as fertilizer. So he gets some Martian soil and human excrement, plants the potatoes, and that's how he gets that part done. To get water, I forget what he burns, but he finds something. They have a gas. No, they have hydrazine gas, and if you burn it, it basically separates into, like, the exhaust product is water. The fun part about that scene is that he has to. NASA is super afraid of fire because it tends to kill astronauts, so they don't actually make anything that's like any of their shit is flammable, except the personal items that people brought with them. And one of those personal items is a crucifix, and he breaks that up because it's made of wood, and he uses that to start a fire. And I thought that was just atheistically pleasing to me. But that's how he makes water, is he burns that gas and it separates out.
I mean, logically, it makes sense that he would use a crucifix, because if someone was astronaut was carrying something with him that was wooden, it would probably be that.
Yeah, I mean, he'd either be burning that or a book.
Or a book, that's true, yeah. After the food and water situation is fixed, he jerry-rigs a rover vehicle to go where the next mission is supposed to land. That is until the folks at NASA notice satellite images of things being moved on the supposedly barren planet. Once they realize Matt Damon is still alive, the rest of the film is about them devising ways to bring him back to Earth. They do this without telling the crew that left Matt. NASA director Jeff Daniels thinks informing the crew will distract them from their mission. This pisses off flight director Sean Bean, who will later leak info to the crew that will make them want to be involved in the mission to save Matt.
Okay, Joe?
Mm-hmm.
Either you start using the character names in your summaries since you have a reference list in the cast list, or we stop doing the cast list.
It's gotta be either or. I like
because you're naming the characters up here and then never using that information again.
All right. While exploring Mars, Watley, that's his name, right? Finds the...
Yeah, don't start doing it now because you're already a paragraph in. I'm saying for the future.
Well, we can keep this in. This is good content. While exploring Mars, Watley, that's his name, right, finds a Pathfinder probe from a previous exploration to Mars. He gets that going, and that's how he communicates back to Earth via text. The roaming charges must have been incredible. See, I put a little joke in
there. They wouldn't be roaming charges. They'd be roving charges.
Oh, because it's a rover. I get it. Very good.
Yep.
Things go from bad to worse when a leak in the airlock causes an explosion, wiping out the garden that had been created as a food source. Then NASA scrambles to send an unmanned ship with supplies while they continue to work on ways to pick this guy up. Unfortunately, because they rush past the usual safety precautions, that supply craft blows up in the atmosphere.
It's not that they rushed past safety precautions. They skipped inspections.
Inspections, okay.
But I'm not even sure that the inspections that they were doing would have caught the eventual problem there. What happens is the rocket launches and then it gets destabilized and breaks up in the atmosphere. And the way they explain it is they decided to simplify the rations they were sending up into like gelatinous protein cubes. And they didn't account for the fact that the vibration of that rocket was going to gelatinize those and make them liquid. And if you've ever like swung a liquid filled thing around, it moves differently than a solid object. So like the inspector would have to have been thinking about that, but inspectors aren't thinking about that. They're thinking about, do all these seals look good? Do all these bolts look tight? Do all these connections look well made? Like that's an engineering problem that should have been solved before they chose that food.
At this point, the Chinese get involved. The Chinese National Space Administration actually has a top secret space vehicle that can resupply our stranded astronaut. From there, I think one of the
Rich Purnell.
Right?
Rich Purnell. Yeah,
Purnell.
He's
an engineer, isn't he?
Yeah, it's I forget what
Anyway, he comes
his
up with the
field
idea.
is.
He comes up with the idea of having that Chinese ship resupply the Hermes. So that's the name of the ship. The Hermes is the ship that they roll on. And then they have that ship use Earth's gravity to slingshot back to Mars 2 years earlier and get our stranded astronaut.
You mean the Hermes?
More complication?
The Hermes.
The Hermes. That's what I said, right?
I think you said the Hermes. As if it's like, I don't know, some other language that exists on Earth now and not ancient Greek.
Hermes.
Hermes.
Hermes. It's like herpes.
Whatever.
Hermes.
Okay.
There were a few more complications, but ultimately this works and he is rescued. The movie ends 5 years later with him working as an instructor for astronaut candidates. The rest of his crew all seem to no longer be astronauts except the Michael Pena's character, whose name I don't remember. For some reason, he's still working. But we will discuss that. George, I left out a lot. Is there anything you want to add?
I've looked ahead to your questions, so no, I don't want to add anything because anything I'd want to add is actually going to get asked later.
Okay, well, let's get into the ask him then.
And to be fair, you did have a whole section where you asked me to explain a thing, so.
You know, I saw this on Reddit, so I'm going to ask you this. Is Michael Pena a bad father husband in this movie?
I don't think so at all. The alternative is his kids grow up knowing that a man died so that their dad would come home sooner. Like, nobody, like, the wife is like, another 2 years? You're going to be gone another 2 years, which is it's a fine reaction to have. But, like, after that initial emotional reaction, she's going to be like, yeah, he's a fucking astronaut and they need to save their guy. Like, it's not even a question. Like, any decent human being is going to be like, oh, we can save our guy? Cool. We're just going to do that.
Yeah, it was really weird me singing that, but I figured, what the hell? I'll put it as a question. But it's like, no, how is it bad? And by the way, he's not the only one who's a parent, so I don't know why they singled him out.
Right.
People. But other than, like, they were on a mission. The people they marry would know this is how it's going to work. So, yeah, it's weird that's a thing. But I'll ask it. Staying with Michael Pena. Why does he get to continue going on missions when the rest of the crew is grounded at the end?
I don't know that they're grounded. I just know that they're not currently in space at the end of the movie.
Now, there is a point in the film
where they say, hey, 2 of us are actually military and we could get court-martialed for this.
Right, if we go back and help our stranded friend.
Well, if they, yeah, because
NASA doesn't want them to do it.
Well, one person at NASA doesn't want them to do it. The rest of the people the head of NASA didn't want to do it, but everybody else did. So, like, and basically they forced his hand by just going ahead with it. But they wouldn't have been punished for that. Like, I could absolutely see the commander being like, that was a whole fucking thing, and I don't want to do that again. Like, it's fine. And Matt Damon's character, like, I can absolutely see him not wanting to fucking go do that again.
Oh, sure.
So, but Michael Pena, sure. Maybe he doesn't like his wife and kids, so he goes up again. Who knows?
When you were, I mean, obviously, your experience is very different than anything that was going on.
Yes, I never left the planet, Joseph.
That's what for sure. But what I was going to ask, though, is in terms of court-martialing, as far as you know about military law, would they have really put any charges against them?
Would they have? No. No, they wouldn't have.
Yeah, because that would have been crazy, right? Oh, we rescued this guy.
Because
everyone thinks we're heroes. Now we're going to prosecute you.
Right.
Really? Is that what's going to happen?
Which is why I wouldn't.
Yeah, it's like, it'd be insane.
I wouldn't have even included that line in the movie if I was writing it.
Here's another question I found. Could a crew realistically use an improvised directional thrust, like blowing a hole in the airlock, to control deceleration?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
And I'll now explain what I just asked, because I picked that question up without knowing what it means.
Okay. So part of the problem on the retrieval side of this is that they were moving too fast relative to the escape vehicle that Matt Damon's character was going to be in. So they had to slow down in a hurry. But if they used their fuel to do that, they'd be in some dire straits when they got closer to Earth and they had to decelerate. So instead of doing that, because it's easier to accelerate in space than it is to decelerate, they decide we only need to keep recycling the oxygen that's in like this one very specific area of the ship. We can actually just blow the rest of it out the front of the ship and slow us down. It's a perfectly valid maneuver. It's like dropping an anchor, but in space.
Okay. Which brings me to my next question. What is the movie's biggest scientific error?
The biggest scientific error is the potato farming, because Martian soil is fucking toxic. You can't fertilize it into being okay to grow crops in.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
What's wrong with the soil? Is it too much metal or something?
Yeah, there's a lot of heavy metals in it that are just poisonous to plants and us.
All right. Staying with the science stuff for a few more seconds here, I am curious about when they're coming to rescue him, he puts the pressure, I mean, I guess it's sort of the acceleration thing, right? When he puts it in he busts his glove or something and that makes him fly. That was, I'm getting that right? Was that what made him shoot up? Because remember, she can't catch him, so he puts his hole in his glove and he presses his arm forward to go forward like he's Iron Man.
Yeah, I thought you wrote that as a question somewhere, and I'm not seeing it. So yeah, there's no, it's Newton's law that is, right? Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. If you can create, this is how, in Star Wars, and this is sci-fi, but in Star Wars, you have TIE fighters. The I in that is ionic, right? And the where the science breaks on that is an ionic engine that can accelerate you to like fighter craft speeds in an instant is not going to happen. But you can propel a vehicle in space by firing a laser out its ass, because the impulse of the photons going the other way is going to propel you forward incrementally in tiny bit faster and faster and faster. You can accelerate to near relativistic speed on a long enough timeline by just putting a little bit of an impulse out your rear end. If you could survive in space, you could actually change your trajectory by farting or sneezing. Like, because you have no friction, so anything that pushes away from you is going to push you in the opposite direction. So yes, he could poke a hole in his glove. Now, the thing is, this is not a good, like, we have jet engines that are shaped, and rocket engines are shaped to apply thrust in a very specific direction. A hole in your glove is not that. So it made sense that it was erratic and barely controllable. I don't know that it would have been controllable at all. I don't know that his hand could have closed enough to stop it because if you close your hand then, right, that gas is still escaping. But I think he could have actually maybe controlled it better if he had his hand closed and held it like this and steered instead of like that. Because you're kind of creating a jet that way.
For listeners,
I'm making a lot of. I have two dicks on either side of me, and I'm jerking them off into my mouth. It's that hand motion.
Or the Donald Trump dance.
Yes.
So basically, this isn't on the list, but I'm asking it anyway. For all the somewhat questionable scientific stuff in this movie, in terms of us traveling through space, this is more likely, or this is how we're going to do it probably forever, right? That it almost certainly is never going to be we're never going to have Star Trek, right?
I don't know that we're going to have warp. I don't know that we're going to have faster than light. So the best we can hope for at this point is fast sublight. But the Hermes is designed, it's got a central, shape to it, but it's also got a habitation ring around it that rotates. And that rotation creates artificial gravity through centripetal force. So if we were going to go on a years-long voyage in space, we would have to, you risk your bones weakening and your muscles atrophying if you're not keeping it. It's hard to exercise against gravity if you have no gravity. So having that would be a necessity. Yeah. Yeah,
because any sort of space is going to take years and years. It's not going to be, unless we create a warp drive, which seems unlikely. Yeah, it's not, it's never going to be Star Trek. It's never going to be Star Wars. It's never going to be where people are dying deep in space and 2 or even a day, they end up on another planet.
Yeah.
That just is not, that's never going to happen.
They even talk about it in the movie. It takes light 12 minutes to go from Earth to Mars. Yeah. One way. So your radio signals, which are traveling more or less at the speed of light, a round trip communication takes almost a half hour. You'd have to. I don't even know how you would have subspace relays that would make that faster. Because the waves are already traveling through space at near the speed of light.
Daniel Glover trips in this film for real, and they kept it in the movie. Do you remember what film we watched where the actor falls, but he keeps going?
No, I don't. Because it has to have happened way more than twice in film history.
Sure, but we saw this film, we commented on it. I'm surprised you don't remember. It contains your favorite actor, your favorite comedic actor. Then Cage.
What?
I said it was like a sitcom.
Joe, you can't count on me remembering.
I'm talking about Birdcage.
Birdcage. Okay.
Falls,
Jesus.
And he gets up and he can see he's laughing, but he manages to keep it together to do the sing, to finish the sing.
Okay, Joe, you cannot be
on it. That's what I thought you'd remember.
Right, you can't count on me remembering anything ever.
Was NASA correct in not telling the crew that their astronaut was alive?
I thought at first, because we don't see them for a while, that they were in some kind of cryo and that they weren't telling them because they'd have to wake them up to do that. I think it was the wrong move for NASA to be like, no, they need to focus on their mission, because their mission is stay on the ship until it gets home. It doesn't take a lot of focus. The ship's on fucking autopilot. You have to hit the treadmill once a day and eat 3 squares and not go insane. That's your job on the return trip.
I mean, technically, their mission is completed once they got off the red plane. And once they got off Mars, there's nothing else for them to do.
Yeah, so I don't think that NASA had the right moral position there. I think as soon as they had a reason to think Matt Damon was alive, they should have told them, because then they could have worked on this fucking plan sooner.
Now, I know NASA technically isn't really the military, but when you were in the Navy, you were informed when someone passed away, right? It wouldn't be something they would keep from you.
This is so far from my experience that I don't even have a good comparison.
Okay.
I didn't know the pilots personally, so if one died, I wouldn't really know it. All right. Do you remember what you thought of this movie when you first saw it in the theater?
I remember liking it very much. I did not get into the science of it. Like I said, my memory of it was there was a lot of controversy around China, but then I looked again and apparently it wasn't. So I don't know where that, in my memory, that comes from. Somebody, I must have gotten to it or somebody was some thread or something online. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But whatever. So, yeah, but I remember liking it. I think it's a good film.
All right. And I agree. Yeah. This was, as you so astutely pointed out, a 2.5-hour movie. Did it like hold your attention the whole time?
It really did, which is a surprise to me. It didn't feel like 2 hours and 31 minutes. I don't know what to attribute that to, because it is also a very talky movie. There isn't that much action if you stop to think about it, but it's interesting enough what they are doing that, yeah, I'm gripped by it. So what about you? Did you lose focus?
I was watching this on a plane. So it's not like but I also had a Nintendo Switch with me. So I could have very easily been like, fuck, I don't want to watch this. I'm going to play on my Switch instead. And I didn't. I just watched the movie. And that wasn't out of some sense of duty to the podcast. It was because I was enjoying the fucking movie.
Yeah. For 2 hours, it's 2 hours and 31 minutes, but it's 2 hours and 31 minutes that go by very fast.
Mm-hmm. So you've seen more Ridley Scott movies than I have. Do you think this is his best film?
Well, no. And it's hard to say what his best film. He is a very, I don't know, is the word diverse? He's a different filmmaker every time, for me anyway. I wouldn't always recognize a Ridley Scott picture if you showed it to me. I'm like, oh, that was directed by Ridley Scott. He doesn't have a signature like some directors have, like I can tell that was directed by this person.
Right. If you see somebody's feet, it's Tarantino. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Something like that. And I don't get that for Ridley Scott. Maybe he does have those sort of things, but I don't notice them. I really like The Last Duel, as I said, which also has Matt Damon in it. I thought that was a really, really good feature. I wouldn't say this is his best, but it's really good. It's up there.
Alrighty. So how much did the science aspects of this movie just like go over your head?
Not as much as you would think, or at least as I would have thought. I mean, they dumb it down enough, I think, for even dopes like me to get it. Even if you don't always understand everything they're saying, you get the context is there enough that you go, okay, I understand what's going on. So I wasn't confused about anything at any point.
Yeah.
Other than the question is like, well, would that really work in real life? Would they be able to really do that? Would they really say that? Would they really do this? But in terms of, but the way the science is presented, it seemed realistic to me, which again brings it back to everything else seemed to be able to ground it in today. So why is it 2035? Where did that come from?
Finally, the man who wrote the book this film is adapted from also wrote the novel Project Hail Mary, which you've seen the movie adaptation of. After seeing this, how much does it remind you of Project Hail Mary?
Oh my God, so much.
Really?
So much I'm looking at this thing going like, where have I seen that scene before? That's very familiar. It's from Project Hail Mary. He also has to keep a diary, which I guess maybe is standard in space travel. Maybe they all do it. But anyway.
I mean, Captain's log.
Yeah, Captain's log type thing. So he has someone to talk to. So in this case, an alien actually shows up, unlike in this movie. But other than that, yeah, it's very similar. The two characters, though, Matt Damon's character and Ryan Gosling's character in Project Hail Mary is the main guy. They're very different men. But they would, they probably get along as much as anyone does in these pictures because they're both very smart guys and they know science. But the Ryan Gosling character is much more, I don't want to be here. Whereas Damon is obviously, he wants to be on this mission. So that's the only real major difference. Another than an alien shows up in Project Hail Mary. But the pictures are very similar. I don't know about the books. I didn't read either one, but both movies have very similar themes, which obviously is written by the same guy. It makes sense.
Alrighty.
So, we have to say it because it's we do this as a conclusion, but we pretty much already said we both think this film works, right?
Yeah, it was a solid, good science fiction movie. Like, because it's less science fiction and science hypothesis.
I was going to ask you that. Is it really science fiction?
Like, it is, because we haven't done this. So it's almost like prospective science fiction or science prophecy.
Yeah. It's more of a grounded sci-fi.
Yeah.
Everything here is theoretically possible. I mean, maybe there's some way where you can grill something on.
I mean,
It's not so outside the realm of, you don't need magic, basically.
right,
Which is a lot of sci-fi stuff. It's pure magic.
who knows if you bring the right freaking enzymes with you and a thing, maybe they can like chelate the soil for you. Like,
Yeah, perhaps. Who knows?
who knows?
Theoretical.
Yeah.
Science. It's science theory. I agree. Or hypothesis. I think that's a word for it. Yeah, but it works really well. The acting's great. And I have to say,
For a science fiction movie, I laughed a bunch of times.
and I also laughed, yes, a lot of humor in it. This is, hands down to me, the most American movie I've seen, at least in terms of what we've seen on this podcast. Because, I'm always complaining about, hey, why are there people of color here? Well, this is all white movie, blah, blah, blah. Not a problem here. And this is a film about a bunch of people working together of different races and genders and stuff. I mean, presumably someone's gay in it, but they never actually say it, so we don't know. But it's America. This is America working together to save someone.
So,
It's optimistic, it's strong, it shows community. I think this is far more American than any of these rah-rah, the flag floating through the air, let's shoot and blow up the Arabs or whatever in the Rambo movie and bullshit like that. This is what I think of for an American movie. Pure Americanism here.
yes. I'll even sign on to that in a way that you don't want necessarily, because
Okay.
the book was very explicit about who every one of these people in this were. And there's two things that got changed that didn't have to get changed. So the character that Chitwell Ejiofor is playing in the book, he is Hindu. He is not, my dad was a Hindu and my mom was a Baptist. He was Hindu. He was Indian. The other thing is that the satellite analyst that we don't name, whose last name is Park, in the book is a Chinese American woman who is a white woman in this movie. So yes, this is a very American picture in that it even whitewashes Asians.
Is it really whitewashing when you have other characters that just change the race? I mean, fundamentally,
See, the thing is, it didn't erase all of the Asian characters because the head guy at JPL was Asian.
the Guam.
Yeah. So, but it's just one character. Somebody felt a need to write an article about it.
Yeah, and that person is goofy. I think that article that you're referencing was stupid. I think its complaints are weird. And I say that as someone's seen a ton of movies, and if this film, I think, went out of its way to be inclusive. I don't think it just randomly happened to have all these different actors of different races. I think it was a conscious choice by the filmmakers to have this in the picture. And I'm grateful for it, because it is always very strange to me, especially in an environment like a NASA, like if someone's setting a story set in New York or Los Angeles, where it's suddenly, the default is always all white people. And, yes, a good majority of white folks, or a good portion of them, don't know any people of color. But depending on what situation you put them in, it seems weird that they wouldn't know any. Like, if you put a character in New York, he doesn't know any people?
Right.
Different races? Really? It's just an all white, like Friends. It was always a complaint people have for Friends. Like, really? You guys don't know anybody? No Hispanics, no Asians, no black people. Really? In New York? And don't even get me started about Los Angeles. Come on. How you go to LA? Not meaning nobody's Mexican in LA, apparently, in some of these pictures. Like, come on. So I'm glad that they, no, we're going to have a mixed race, which would be real. That's how it works. Which, again, makes it, for me, an American movie. Way more than a lot of other films that insist that, oh, we're very American, look how great our story is. And this is American. This is America. People working together, and smart people working together to solve a problem. Or at least that can be America sometimes. We can be really smart sometimes if we just try.
Yep.
Sometimes we get lazy and we vote for stupid people, and then all hell breaks loose.
Yep.
But theoretically, there are a lot of smart people here who can do shit. If we only let them.
If we only let them.
All right, my friend, what's up next?
Our next episode is a Patron's Choice episode, and the patrons have voted. The theme is marriage, divorce, and the in-between. And the choices were Kramer vs. Kramer from 1979, Peggy Sue Got Married from 1986, and Lars and the Real Girl from 2007. And the winner is Kramer vs. Kramer from 1979, which I am not a Seinfeld person. I never watched it, but I know who Kramer is, and every time I see that title, I just think of Kramer suing himself.
Yes, totally unrelated, as you would imagine.
Right.
Boy, it's going to be interesting to see how well this holds up. Because, number one, it's from the point of view of the man. And,
which, you know going in that's probably not going to work.
He's from the point of view of the man who's and of course, he wants a custody of his kid. As the mother has abandoned him and run off. She wants a career.
Oh, heavens be.
And it stars Dustin Hoffman and Meryl Streep. And apparently, and you're going to do the history on it so you can get back and remind if this is correct. Apparently, he was a real dick on the set to her. So you can research that and see if that is true, if my memory for that is correct. But I believe she did say years later, like, what an asshole. What a total, complete asshole. Which this is a thing you hear about Hoffman on occasion, Mr. Dustin Hoffman. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. And the point is, if you like to vote and you're not a patron, you can fix that by becoming one at patreon.com/DTSWpod. So listen to all those films. You could have voted on that. So next time, vote. So I guess that's it for this episode. I'm Joe Dixon. Thanks for listening.
And I'm George Romaka. Thanks for listening indeed, because if a podcast drops and there's nobody around to hear it, it's just another collection of ones and zeros that doesn't matter.
You've been listening to Does This Still Work? Produced by Joe Dixon and George Romaka. This content is CAN credentialed, which means you can report instances of harassment, abuse, or other harm on their hotline at 617-249-4255 or on their website at creatoraccountabilitynetwork.org. The hosts can be reached via social media, email, or the contact page at dtswpod.com. Be good to yourself and others, because that still works.
I forget who was in Inception. I don't know why my brain thinks it was Matt Damon.
No. Inception is the other blonde. The
Brad Pitt?
The other blonde. The younger one. The one who works with the Italian. He has an Italian name. Leonardo DiCaprio.
DiCaprio. Okay. Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
All right. From No Stupid Questions. Am I literally the only person who has never heard of Oliver Tree until today? From Stupid Questions. Why do we not have underwear for armpits? So, from Random Questions. Is it weird to rescue usable items from the garbage and use them in your home? Back to No Stupid Questions. How many bones can be removed from a human body before it dies? Back to Stupid Questions. Why is it more common for women to complain about weaponized incompetence from men than the other way around? Alright, and from Random Questions, have you ever met someone who had insecurities about their appearance, but they looked stunning to you?